What's up, 8 a.m. Studios? Forgive my beach boy haircut. Jackson and I just went to the beach in Southie, which was a fun time. But welcome back to the 30-day awakening challenge, which is getting there. Slowly getting there. But today I have a super topic that I'm gonna do my best to reiterate from that which I read this morning. This will probably be like a two-part video, largely improvised. But before we start and go into it, first off, my name is Arlen. I'm in Southie right now, filming day 21 or day 20, something like that, of the 30-day awakening challenge. And before we go any further, it would be in your best interest to leave a comment on this video right now as you're watching, saying who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. Because the whole purpose of this 30-day challenge is to remember those essential facts and to wake up consistently throughout your day. Or else you will be, as we learned today, you'll be possessed by the devil and you will probably end up not living a fulfilling life. Yeah, no, but seriously, today's video topic is on this book. I haven't read any really great books in the last several months, but this one was suggested to me this morning by my friend Quasi, and it's called Outwitting the Devil, and it's by Napoleon Hill, and that name should be familiar to you because he wrote Think and Grow Rich, and you guys know I'm a huge proponent of that book. So if y'all haven't read that, you should definitely read that. If you haven't heard of it, it's basically one of the first handbooks to success, to the law of attraction, to getting what you want in proper English terms that isn't hidden by lingo. Obviously Hermes way back thousands of years ago was writing about this kind of stuff, but it was masked in different language, because that type of speaking was bad. And obviously this stuff comes up in the Bible, and ancient texts through generation after generation. But Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill was one of the first ones that modern man could read and be okay, this makes sense and I can apply this in my life and I get it and I see how it works. This book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, Secrets to Success, Freedom and Success, or something like that. This book was written in 1938, okay? But was only published recently in 2011. Why? Because, well, if you can imagine, a book called Outwitting the Devil in 1938, if you wrote a book about anything related to religion back then, anything related to the devil, God, if you accuse religion of anything, then you're going to be slandered, you're going to be attacked, you're going to be, people are going to come after you, and you're not going to be successful in any right. So that's why this book was actually shoved away. Actually, not shoved away, his wife put it in a vault. Napoleon Hill's wife was you cannot publish this now, or else it will just we'll lose everything. You will be considered a joke. And so she locked it away. And it wasn't until years later that it was actually, can I go? It wasn't until years later that Napoleon Hill's work was released to the public by the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and this was in 2011. So this book is really great. I would compare it to works along the likes of Stephen Pressfield, who wrote the War of Art, and then there's also a book called The Mastery of Love, which both have sort of similar type of ideas. However, this one, Outwitting the Devil, is much more, I would say, all-encompassing. It's a better philosophy for understanding that which prevents you from kind of reaching the reality, the self, the impact the success and the mission of your desired choice. This is definitely much more like all-encompassing rather than like a little tip book. It's really good. I've read, so I bought it this morning after Quasi told me about it. And I'm sorry, I'm going uphill and my phone is not really locked in. I bought it this morning and I read it. I read half of it. It's like a 6-hour audio. I listened to it for like 3 hours on Audible. And I read that much and I was just like really blown away. The basic concept, and I'm gonna just explain it as just like there's some pretty wacky stuff in it, as you can imagine, but the assuming you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, one thing Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich is how he would have these like round table mastermind meetings with extremely successful people, dead or alive, who he has studied in great lengths, who or met in person, in his imagination. So he would have meetings with like, I think he had 8 people, including Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Abraham Lincoln, I think Roosevelt was in there, and 4 other people. And I actually think Gillette, the guy who founded Gillette razors. So he would have meetings in his imagination with these people through what he calls the sixth sense, and they would give him advice and like teach him things from his like imagination of them. And I know what you're thinking. This might sound like, holy shit, is this guy on drugs? Is this guy okay? Should he be in a psychiatric ward? And, you know, yeah, maybe. But what he produced is some extremely interesting insight from these really successful people who he had these imaginary meetings with. And you might actually even think that they were actually there, because what they said is very along the lines of what they probably would have actually said if the meeting was real. And where this comes from, this like intuitive knowledge, is in combination with him like having studied them a lot. So he's like, he can kind of infer, if you want to think of it logically, like he has, you know, studied these people. So he can, you can always say to yourself, you know, what would who's a really successful model, what would Mark Cuban do with like his money today? What would who's another rich person? What would Bill Gates do? If you like read a lot about Bill Gates, you probably would be able to know what would Bill Gates do. Well, you can try this if you want, but like have a meeting with someone you really look up to and just talk to them, ask them questions, and see what your subconscious mind or what your sixth sense comes up with as an answer. And I think you'll be surprised. It's super interesting. I've done it like a little bit, not that much, it's a little freaky, I don't know. Anyway, this book, Outwitting the Devil, takes that principle, and Napoleon Hill has a meeting with the devil. And he talks to the devil in his imagination in this book. And basically what the devil does is he explains himself, and he explains what he is and how he prevents people from accomplishing what they want in life, and from having any control over their life, and from having any control over their own mind. So in Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, the devil, or whatever you want to call it, like negative energy, presents itself as procrastination, fear. Fear is pretty much the biggest one. Like any form of fear of anything prevents you from getting anywhere. Saying hi to a person, procrastination prevents you from doing your work that you know you need to do. And so Napoleon Hill has this conversation in his imagination with the devil, and the devil like explains himself, and Napoleon Hill is just like pressing him for questions and questions in this manuscript. And I've read about half of it, as I said, and so I'll share a few of the things I've learned. The biggest tool of the devil is, and this is wildly controversial, and probably one of the main reasons it wasn't published in its time it was written, is the education system and religion. These are the two biggest ways that the devil makes sure that people don't think for themselves. So, for example, education, you go to school, you learn a ton of information that's like, but you aren't taught how to apply it. You're kind of just taught all of these things that fill up your mind. And you go to college without any definite purpose, without any definite mission in mind as to what you are going to do after college with your life. Like, you're just going through it. Religion, it presents you with all these ideas that are, close, but not quite right. Like, they're kind of just keeping you in limbo. And this state of learning, information that is like, you're almost like taught to think that this is a good thing, but it isn't. Like, it truly is not, because you're not getting what you want and you're not in control of your own mind. This is what the devil in Napoleon Hill's book calls drifting. So drifting is like the devil's biggest tool. It's like putting stuff in the human mind that makes you think that you're productive, distracts you from doing what you ultimately know you, or maybe don't know you could be doing, which is taking full control of your mind and your life and your reality, and like actually doing something with your life. So that's drifting. And he explains the characteristics of a drifter versus a non-drifter. So a drifter is someone who is like a jack of all trades, who's doing a bunch of maybe different things but isn't really great at any one of them, who criticizes others, who condemns others, who I don't remember all of the characteristics off the top of my head. I should have better notes for these videos. But you can recognize a drifter as someone who basically doesn't have any definite purpose in life and is kind of just floating around in procrastination, beginning things but never finishing them, getting nothing done ever, really, and just being a floating entity. A non-drifter is someone who knows exactly what they are doing, and they have a definite plan of what they're doing, of what their objective is, and they have an exact way that they know they're going to get it, and they're going to make it happen. And that's what a non-drifter is. Non-drifters also are increasingly physically fit, healthy, in charge of their own bodies and minds, in charge of their emotions. They rarely procrastinate. They surround themselves with good people, and they take action in ways they know will help them accomplish that definite purpose. That's like pretty much the biggest indicator. Like, they have control of their own mind and they have a definite purpose. So that's where I'm at right now. The next part, which I listened to while I was working out this morning, was called something rhythm. Maybe I will do a video on this later or tomorrow, as after I listen to it again, because I didn't really take it all in. But yeah, I highly recommend reading this book, along with books like The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. These two together are, in my opinion, like, not many people are talking about this type of thing. So I highly recommend it. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you stay awake the rest of your day, meaning, you are in control of your mind, you are in control of what you are doing, you're doing it for a definite purpose. And if you don't know your purpose, just sit in meditation, like sit in silence for like a day or two, or maybe even longer, and just wait until you get that intuitive sixth sense feeling or intuition that, this is what you need to be doing. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share today. I'm kind of like hyped up on a cold brew right now. I was pretty excited to talk about this, so hope it helped, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.